how are you doing? Welcome. It's so good to have you here with me. And we are diving into innovation ecosystems today. We're going to talk about what they are, why they're important, and what's really significant is how you can develop your own innovation ecosystem and really think about it. Because if you're not thinking about your innovation ecosystem and cultivating it and nurturing it, then you may be missing out on opportunities. So as always, it's great to be here with you. If we've not met before, I'm Dr. Jo North and I love all things innovation and strategy and business growth. I'm an author, I'm a consultant, a speaker, and I just really enjoy being here with you. So if you've got any questions or any comments, whether you're watching live, this webinar is live, or if you're watching it on replay, then do put them in the comments and I'll make sure that I come back to every single one of you. But I hope you enjoy the show, and I've got lots to cover, so we're going to get started and dive straight in. What we're going to be talking about is all of these things and more besides, I'm sure. So firstly, what is an innovation ecosystem and why your company or organisation needs one? Now, just as a bit of a hint, you already have one. It's how aware of it are you, and are you really tapping into it? Are you growing it? Are you making the most of it? Is it taking you in the direction that you want it to go in? So you are in an innovation ecosystem and you do have one, but by being mindful of what it is, you can do so much more and so much better, I'm sure. So we'll be thinking about how successful innovation ecosystems work. I'll be showing you a few examples of innovation ecosystem mapping and giving you some tips on how you might build your own innovation ecosystem map, and some examples and challenges of working in an innovation ecosystem. Yeah, it can often feel much easier just to go on and do it on your own and get on with it, and sometimes it is, but actually often we do need our ecosystem around us. So we'll talk about those challenges, and importantly we'll talk about what are some of the solutions that you can use to overcome them, and I'll give you some additional tips for building your own thriving innovation ecosystem. So wow, there's a lot there. We'll cover it all. I'll try and keep it pacey, and let me know what you think as we go forward. And just to say that a lot of these ideas, if you want them to go into more detail, you can have a look at my book, Leading Sustainable Innovation. It's out worldwide, and I'll be giving you a discount code for that at the end of this webinar. So let us start off with, what is an innovation ecosystem? Well, one of the most famous definitions is by an academic called Moore, who back in the day wrote that it's an economic community supported by a foundation of interacting organisations, the organisms of the business world. And I agree with that. I think my definition today, as someone who has direct experience of creating, nurturing, growing, connecting innovation ecosystems in different industries internationally, my definition would be this, which is an organic system in which businesses large and small, including startups, public sector organisations, academia and the not-for-profit, media and culture sectors, work together to shape new purposeful solutions to challenges and opportunities. And I do call it an organic system in that definition, although I think as well as a system, it's probably more than that. It's also about community, right? The sense of community in a thriving innovation ecosystem is super important. More about that to follow. Now, innovation ecosystems can be informal. They're just organically created and just have evolved, and they have no particular structure around them, or they can be formal, which is where they're a bit more cultivated, curated and nurtured. So they can also, a blend of both is, and I think a blend of both is actually a pretty good place to be. So now think about innovation ecosystems and what are they? So it is that organic system of all these different types of organisation working together, connecting. They can be large or small. They can be co-located physically or virtually. In a lot of the stuff you'll read about innovation ecosystems, they tend to focus on place, and I think place is very, very important for many innovation ecosystems. But often the connecting factor isn't just place, or it isn't place at all. It could be a particular sector, it might be fintech or maritime or nuclear or construction. And it's some sort of combining, connecting factor that binds people together and brings them together in a community to work together on innovation projects. Essentially, all the different organisations have multiple direct and indirect links between them, and so it's sort of like a web of connections, if you like. And they're there to share ideas, knowledge, connections, finance, people resources, and they connect on all of these so that those successful organisations reinvest back into the innovation ecosystem. And there's a phrase that I really like about innovation ecosystems, which is a rising tide lifts all boats. So the idea is that, when one organisation is doing really well, it can then enable other organisations to do well. So the more that all the organisations in an innovation ecosystem succeed, the better everybody does. So it works for everyone. And actually what is something to think about is that the innovation ecosystem concept comes from ecosystem in nature. It's exactly the same sort of thing, where you've got different species, different types of species. It could be a coral reef under the ocean, or it could be in a forest, or all of that, combined together as our nature, as how nature works. So that is where the word ecosystem comes from, and that's what we are applying in terms of the principles in a business environment. So what we sometimes hear are words like quadruple or quintuple, helix, and we'll just stop on those for a moment, and I'll just say a little bit about them. So when you've got ecosystem partners from across the private sector, the public sector, research and civil society, so that's known as the quadruple or quintuple helix. The difference between quadruple, which is 4 obviously, and quintuple, which is 5, is that it's quintuple when the ecosystem includes the stakeholders representing the natural environment. So we're thinking about planet within there, the quintuple helix, of course, which is really super important. So I'd encourage you to go down that route. Of course, it's essential from a sustainability perspective. So how do successful innovation ecosystems work? So they generally have a clear, relevant, shared purpose. So this is really important for your innovation ecosystem to thrive. It's what are we all here to do? What are we all trying to succeed in together? How are we all trying to help each other as all this sort of system, this community of different organisations? You might also hear words like cluster or hub, and they are connectors. There are other similes, if you like, for innovation ecosystem. Successful, thriving innovation ecosystems also work together to solve shared challenges, and they identify those challenges together. So they could be things like economic growth in a region, a nation, or a sector. It could be eco-innovation, aiming to become more sustainable, more community-focused, decarbonisation. It could be around developing the skills that are needed for the future, materials shortages and overcoming those, and all sorts of other things. So there are things that they have in common that they want to work on together, and with a clear shared purpose, so that everybody can get behind that and everybody can win out of that. So they're there to exploit shared opportunities. For instance, it could be creating a really good, strong supply chain offering for a major manufacturer or a major sector that's in an area. So thinking about some of successful innovation ecosystems, some of the really famous ones that you'll know about are obviously Silicon Valley. That ecosystem sprung up, didn't it, as around shared types of technology development, skills, the funding, how the venture capital system, all of that was in place to really enable that ecosystem to grow. And Hollywood with filmmaking, so there are lots and lots of these, and these have been going on through time. Different parts of the country have been famous for doing different things. You think about in South Yorkshire and steel with Sheffield, for instance, you could say that was a bit of an innovation ecosystem. And today, of course, I'm aware of innovation ecosystems and have been directly involved with them um, in the maritime sector, in construction, in nuclear, in advanced manufacturing, in electronics, and many more besides. So, yeah, if you're into innovation, if you've got a business that you want to grow, if you are a researcher, if you're a public sector organisation that really wants to take policy forward and make the right decisions, based on the latest innovations, then really understanding your innovation ecosystem is super important. Okay, so as always, if there's anything that you want to challenge or add, or any questions you've got, then please just pop them in the comments, and I'll see them and I'll come back to all of them. So what makes an innovation ecosystem really strong? Money is important, strong accessible funding, so that especially the latest ideas, the more cutting edge ideas that are going to be transformational for the industry or sector, or at least take it on a significant step forward on its journey, that is in place. So good people with great ideas, a diverse mix, the right funding support, innovation ecosystem partners collaborating. There needs to be that culture of collaboration. And of course, not everybody wants to collaborate, but it's about finding those people who do want to collaborate, so that you've got this collective knowledge exchange. So everybody becomes more up to date, everybody is better informed, and everybody is able to think more innovatively. And it's really surprising what opportunities come from taking the time to connect with people on the right things. Innovation, talent, also makes a strong innovation ecosystem. People who are able to spot opportunities, people who are able to build relationships, make things happen, influence, join the dots and see things that others don't, are really important as catalysts for that ecosystem. As well as, of course, research and development capability. We need the latest academic, scientific, research, engineering solutions, materials science. All of those things need to go in and feed the innovation ecosystem to keep it progressing and keep it moving forward, as well as agility and responsiveness to external events, because sorry to be Captain Obvious, but the world's always changing, and often in unexpected ways. So the innovation ecosystem actually can provide resilience to those changes, because everybody can support each other in delivering that transformation, and everyone can learn together. And I think what we're seeing in around the world in areas like green shipping corridors, helping the maritime industry become more sustainable. That collaboration around looking at different types of fuel and what needs to happen to vessels and the infrastructure at ports, for instance. That's an example of a strong innovation ecosystem that's at the beginning of its journey, and it's got a way to go, but that strong innovation ecosystem is figuring things out and solving problems and challenges and finding opportunities together. So what I really suggest you do is to think about your own innovation ecosystem. Think about your organisation and where it sits, and think about the types of organisations you do work with, and think about the types of organisations and people that you would like to work with. So I'll just take this down for a second. So if you imagine that you've got your organisation, you've got your supply chain, you've got customers, there are other external stakeholders, there are academics doing research into your field, there are people educating the next generation of people and upskilling existing people who are in your field. So you've got all of these different organisations. And my question to you is, how mindfully are you curating your ecosystem of those organisations? And also, how are you contributing to their success when they are really, really important to you as organisations as well? Are you working with small to medium-sized enterprises who've got great ideas, maybe startups scaling up, and helping them accelerate things through accelerate their innovation through technology readiness levels? So take a moment to just think about you and your organisation, and put you and your organisation at the centre of that, and then start to map out, who you're interacting with, where are the strengths, and where are the gaps, and where could you invest a bit of time and effort in developing your innovation ecosystem. And of course, remember as well that although you're at the centre of some people's innovation ecosystems, you're on the surroundings of others. So it's about finding that space for mutual benefit, those win-win scenarios of shared interest, if you like. Okay, so back to innovation ecosystem mapping. So think about as well, what is the purpose? What do you want to get from your working with your ecosystem? How can you help each other? And those examples from what I was saying earlier could be things like decarbonisation, they could be safety, they could be skills, they could be digital transformation, they could be economic growth, strengthening the supply chain, building resilience, and so much more. So think about what it is, and then think about who are the keystone organisations. So in any ecosystem, whether it's in nature or our innovation ecosystem in organisations, there are certain organisations who it's really, really key to have on board, and we call those keystone organisations in this world. And then think about who are the other organisations you need to bring in. Support organisations. There could be organisations like Innovate UK, for instance, that supports businesses with new ideas in the UK. It could be business support organisations that help businesses grow and succeed. It could be funders and investors, government organisations, skills and knowledge providers, research and development, academia, private sector businesses. And so you sort of map it out. Make sure that you include small to medium-sized enterprises as well amongst those private sector businesses, because often small to medium-sized enterprises have great ideas and can move really quickly, and they're an important part of contributing to the innovation ecosystem. If you are a small to medium-sized enterprise yourself, think about which innovation ecosystems you could be part of, and make sure that you throw yourself into the mix and that you contribute, that you're known, you're part of those innovation communities that it would benefit you to be part of. So just some examples of how you can do this. There is a great article by Talmar et al. From 2020, which is about something called the ecosystem pie model. So that's pie, P-I-E, like a pie that you eat. And they suggest that you start off with the ecosystem's value proposition. So a value proposition is, the compelling reason why, what it's there to do, the difference that it's there to make. You think about what resources are available from each partner. You think about what activities you're going to do, how that's going to add value, and then how you're going to convert that value into meaningful outputs. So that's a really quite a nice model to look at. And they use an example in that, and I've got all the links are all here for you, and if you'd like these slides as well, just let me know, just drop a comment, and I'll send the slides over to you. But looking at this, for instance, we've got zero emission public transport as an example. And the key players in this innovation ecosystem are the technology development team, the chemical equipment manufacturer, the bus manufacturer, municipalities or councils, local authorities, a power to liquid plant, tanking stations, other public transport operators, and of course public transport passengers. And what they've done is they've mapped out what are the, for each of those actors, or those partners in the innovation ecosystem, what are the resources, what are the activities, how are they adding value, capturing that value, so that the innovation ecosystem that are all together working towards zero emission public transport are better. So, and you can do this, really simply for your own organisation. Some other examples for you, just to show how different ways that this can be done. There's lots of different ways. Is doing a mind mapping sort of approach using a spider diagram. And there's an example from Invest Sunshine Coast here. So Invest.Sunshine Coast from Queensland and Australia, and they've mapped out their innovation ecosystem. There's another much simpler one here from Somali, the Somali Innovation Ecosystem Map. So these aren't for detail, it's just to show you that you can do this in a number of different ways here. You've got different options for whatever works for you. And it might start as a mind map and then turn into something else. And I also like Strategizer's Innovation Ecosystem Map as well. They've done this really as the corporate innovation ecosystem, which they say is about understanding the players, the tensions and the key strategic questions. But I like visually how they've represented this. They've got the core, they've got new innovation initiatives, they've got the startup ecosystem, and they've got customers, and shown the interactions between those as well. Okay, now it all sounds great, doesn't it? All these people working together, collaborating beautifully and doing great things all together. But there are of course challenges to be overcome as well. Leading and nurturing, curating your innovation ecosystem isn't always straightforward. So some of the common challenges that I've come across when I've been working in advanced manufacturing, electech, construction, maritime, nuclear, I could go on, are some of these. So firstly is deciding when is it best to collaborate versus when do we need to compete. And I think getting that really quite clear up front is super helpful. And even if sometimes you may be competing for the same, for the same contracts or businesses, and you need to make sure that you've got that really strong competitive distance between you, there are always areas where we can collaborate and where we can cooperate. Non-commercially sensitive areas, non-contentious areas. I think everybody, for instance, wants to do the very best they can for their people with regards to health and safety, for instance. So health and safety innovation is one of those areas. And then again, of course, depending on what sector you're in, decarbonisation and learning, more from each other about how we can be more sustainable. That's often an area as well that has good opportunity for true collaboration. Skills is another area. I've seen different industries, and one of them, for example, is construction, where they did a piece of work and found that as companies in construction, they were all competing for the same skill base. But actually, they weren't just competing for construction skills, they were competing with other sectors for skills in general. So what they decided to do was to run boot camps and do a series of activities together, and they joined up so that as an industry, they could attract the right people, develop the right skills, and so on. And that did much better for them than when they're each trying to do their own thing and compete within the sector. They decided to compete as a sector, and that was more successful. So also thinking about how much time, resource and money should be invested by whom and for whose benefit. I think, having an innovation ecosystem and getting one going doesn't have to really cost anything at all beyond some time, some sandwiches and a place to meet, or maybe some, online collaboration tools. So, and I think, if people find it valuable, if people find that being part of the innovation ecosystem is somewhere where it's fun and engaging, they feel welcome, as well as it being really super productive and useful, then people are willing to sort of contribute their time and effort and attention to your innovation ecosystem. And of course, there's always that trade-off, isn't there, between what do we need to do for us as an organisation and what's best for the innovation ecosystem, and that will be, that's a judgment call for every organisation. Sometimes it's better to do something for the greater good, and your organisation might benefit in the longer term. Sometimes you just have to do what's right for your organisation right now in the moment, even if it has, some sort of impact on the innovation ecosystem. But that's a judgment call for each organisation. I've been lucky enough to work with some great organisations, and I'm lucky enough to work with great organisations who want to make sure that their own organisations benefit and it benefits the rest of the innovation ecosystem as much as possible at the same time. And that's really what we always need to be aiming for as much as possible. One thorny issue as well can be intellectual property protection and knowledge exchange. And if we're in this environment, we're sharing ideas, what do we do about that? And I think it's about having some really clear ground rules, up front about what you're going to do in that situation. And maybe if it's brainstorming, if it's shared best practice, and those sorts of things, it doesn't necessarily need to be a concern. But if you are getting directly into joint ventures, into product development or solution development, things, then that's worth formalising, and making sure that that is really, really clear before you get too far down on the journey. Another thing I'm asked about a lot is governance and gaining consensus amongst the different participants in the innovation ecosystem. So, I mean, governance really, it depends how formal the innovation ecosystem structure is. If it's an informal one that's done, with through goodwill and partnership and genuine, win-win, and people choosing to participate in things that are right for them to participate in, and maybe not engaging in things that are less interesting, then I don't think it needs a lot of governance, because it's really done through relationships and goodwill. But if you decide to have some sort of formal structure, then that I think it's about having someone who is seen to be straightforward, independent, and has the best interests of the ecosystem and can balance all of that, and have people like that engaged in the process, so that that governance can really work for you. And then just the practicalities, like finding times and locations when everyone can get together. And I find that just going for things, having a date with enough notice in the future, that if people are super interested, and if they possibly can, they can swizzle things around to get to those dates. I think that generally works. And another challenge is historic and ongoing rivalries and local organisational politics when it comes to the ecosystem. And I think, that is what it is. But over time, it's about, building trust, getting to know people, showing, people what's in it for them, but not getting too deterred by any of that. Work with people who want to collaborate, find the first movers, find the people who are most willing and up for it, and seek them out and start with them, and then really start to build things. And often you might find that some of the, slower to move, more resistant, more traditional or whatever, some of those organisations do come on board when they see the good stuff that's happening, and they start to want to be part of it. Okay, so how to build your thriving innovation ecosystem then. Some of this is a bit of a recap, but just to bring it all together a little bit. Firstly, create a clear purpose, vision and value proposition for your ecosystem. Being mindful that it's going to change, okay? And it should change, it should evolve as more partners come on board, as the world changes, as you learn stuff. So what you start off with today isn't necessarily going to be the same vision that you have in 3 or 5 years' time, and nor should it be, right? But it's about having that starting point for what's relevant right now and into the future, as far as you can foresee it. Have some early ideas to hand about what what you might be working on together, and what you might be doing and achieving before you speak to potential partners. And map out the first stage of the innovation ecosystem visually. It may be concentric circles with you in the middle and going further and further out. It could be a mind map, and whatever format works for you. But include everyone you need on board in the early stages. Who would be really ideal to have that, to create that strong ecosystem, and speak to them and get their buy-in and commitment. Again, speaking to them might change some of your original thinking about what this could be all about and what it could do, and that's a good thing, because it needs to have everybody's input in order to work. And arrange your first session, and this can be an innovation sprint or workshop. And if you want more information on how to do an innovation sprint, check out my website, which is bigbangpartnership.co.uk. Go to the blog section and just type in the search bar innovation sprint, and all the information that you need on how to do that will pop up. But it's really great if you can get the key players in the room and have a session where you sprint towards working out, what's your vision, where your priority is going to be, and how you're going to work together, and when are you going to work together and when aren't you? You know, that compete versus collaborate thing I was talking about earlier. And that can be really powerful. And make sure that you lead with some, you leave rather with some clear next steps for what you want to do afterwards. So I hope that's helpful. If you've got any questions or if you've got any great examples you want to share, then do let me know and pop them into the comments. Just to say as well that I did promise you at the start of this a discount code for the book Leading Sustainable Innovation. There's more about innovation ecosystems in there, how to do them, what you can do with them, as well as lots of other things around, of course, leading sustainable innovation. If you buy it from the Kogan Page website, so the Kogan Page website only, there is a 20% discount for you when you use the code KoganPage20. So go to the Kogan Page website, Leading Sustainable Innovation, you'll find it there, and the discount code is Kogan, Kogan, Page, PAGE, and the number 20, and that will get you 20% off. So I hope that's useful for you, and do let me know what you think. And there's of course you've got loads of free resources, not just on this YouTube channel, but also through the podcast and bigbangpartnership.co.uk website. So I'm always writing lots of different articles and things to help you out there, and it's all free. So please do go and fill your boots with those. It's been great to spend this time with you. Thank you very much for joining me, and good luck with your innovation ecosystem. I'd love to hear how you get on with it. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Idea Time Show, brought to you by Dr. Jo North. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and access more completely free resources at bigbangpartnership.co.uk/resources. We'll see you next time.